Wonderful, wonderful. Cool. Yeah, you can easily change your name if you like right click on your screen. There's rename there, and you can say whatever name that you would like. I'll introduce myself. My name is Praise. I am the education coordinator for Water Rangers. My pronouns are she, they, and I'm coming to you from the ancestral lands of the Semiahmoo, Katsi, Coquitlam, Kwantlen, Watson, and Coquia people, colloquially known as Surrey, British Columbia. I have a very diverse background. I have a degree in business and sustainability. I've had roles in nonprofit leadership, sustainable and community development, public engagement, finance, and conservation. And I love working in outdoor education. Growing up, I wasn't super exposed to the outdoors, but in my adulthood, I've really found a place for myself within the industry. And I just find it so meaningful to be able to support educators to connect their students with nature and expose young learners to all that's possible for them in this big wide world. So yeah, that's me.
Thanks, Grace. Hello, my name is Catherine. My pronouns are she, her, and I am the Outreach and Engagement Coordinator for Ocean Diagnostics Canada. I am located on the unceded traditional territories of the Lekwungen and Senchothan speaking people, also known as the Songhees, Esquimalt, and Wasanich nations of this area. I'm also an Indigenous person, so I'm super stoked to be a part of this. And I have a significant background in ocean sciences. I worked in fisheries and oceans for a couple of years. And I also have a really big background in education. So I was raised by an educator. I've been in schools for literally ever. That's one of the pieces of why I love my job, is because I get to chat with educators who are really excited about sustainable learning and sustainable education and who love what they do. That's me.
Awesome. So we'll tell you a little bit about the organizations we're here with. Water Rangers is a Canadian nonprofit and social enterprise, and our mission is to engage communities in the stewardship of our water bodies and make water data accessible. So our founder, Kat Kavanaugh, she was inspired to make this process more intuitive and accessible for non-scientists, because growing up, she would test the water of her lake in the local lake by her cottage with her father, who was the head of this Lake Stewardship Association. She grew up and became a web designer, and she entered into an aquahawking competition where they were looking for innovative solutions to issues affecting the Ottawa River. And her team came up with a data platform, and they won the aquahawking competition. And eventually that platform was a prototype that led to Water Rangers. And now Water Rangers, we build really easy to use water quality monitoring equipment to help communities and scientists to easily collect the water data, as well as we host an open source data platform where folks can upload and manage their data and analyze it and use it to their discretion. Our testing kits are used by municipalities, educators, conservation groups, communities, you name it, anyone that wants to get involved in water quality testing. And we're really here to support and engage folks to do that. We've trained over 15,000 people to use our kits. We've sent education kits to every province and territory across Canada, and we primarily operate in Canada, the US, and the UK.
Thanks, Praise. So Ocean Diagnostics, who are we? What do we do? So we are a microplastics and biodiversity company that's focused on doing environmental impact assessments. Basically, how we were created was a marine scientist and an engineer kind of met up and had a joint mission to increase microplastic monitoring research because they saw a significant gap. And the reason why they wanted to really kind of touch on that and increase that is because microplastics are becoming ever present in our environment. And, even though they're really tiny or even invisible, they can pose a huge threat to both planetary health and, living thing health. So we are divided into 3 different segments. Our first one is innovative technology. So we make tons of different kinds of technology for microplastic monitoring and environmental DNA research for people that are in universities and government, municipalities, pretty much anybody that wants something we can create. We also have a lab service segment to us, which is located in Vancouver. And what they do is consultations to manage and mitigate microplastic creation and pollution in the environment. Recently, they've been working on a microfiber project, so that's been exciting. And last but not least, and my personal favorite part of our company, is the community science and education portion. So this is what I do, which is why I like it the most. And basically, our whole goal is to support educators, students, scientists, and more specifically, community scientists to tackle microplastics in their own communities and give them the tools to do that. So we have folks all over the world that are using our tools, from Mexico down to Australia, that are doing research with us.
Super cool work that Ocean Diagnostics does. So you've learned a little bit about our organizations, and you might be wondering, okay, what's this nonprofit and environmental impact company doing together? What products are they offering? Why water quality and microplastics? And thank you for coming to this webinar to learn about that. I'm sure that you're also here because you value the environment. Maybe you've had good memories in nature, in the water, and you want to give that back to your students, and hopefully with the same quality that you've also experienced. And we also feel the same way, and that's why both of our organization, our philosophy is really centered around environmental conservation, whether it's maintaining habitats or protecting biodiversity. We believe that all water bodies are connected, and we're all connected to the water and to the ocean, whether it's our memories or our lives or our sustenance. And we are striving to protect our planet from those environmental threats like water quality and microplastic pollution, which are human impacts. So we do this by focusing on creating tools to collect data and to drive decision-making as well as action. 60% of watersheds in Canada are data deficient, and it's estimated that there's going to be 53 million metric tons by 2030 of global annual plastic emissions. So these are really big problems, and humans have the capacity to understand and analyze data so they can drive innovative solutions like the work that Ocean Diagnostics does. And that's why we really want to support that. And by monitoring and collecting water samples or microplastics, we're contributing to that ongoing data collection that's helping to inform decision makers and the public about the health of our water and all the things that's connected to it. Finally, we really want to show people the connection between humans and the environment, both positive and negative, and to encourage environmental stewardship. We think that raising awareness of water health and the impact of our futures through water quality and microplastics is a really easy step to take, and it's the first step to take. But we want our tools to really be that springboard for so much more, and we want everyone to feel empowered, and we want your students to be able to explore what they can contribute individually to solve these collective problems. So that's why we have these kits. And these kits are science-based environmental sampling activities. They're meant for outdoor use, but they can be modified to be used indoors for accessibility, to make sure that anyone and everyone can get to do some sort of testing and sampling. And there are components of data collection and evaluation. So that means that your learners are going to be able to understand what the data means. They're encouraged to draw these bigger connections, problem solve, and even engage with their community. And our kits are really here to make learners think about how we interact with water, how we interact with the world around us, from our taps all the way to our oceans. Yeah.
Thanks. So now you kind of know about who we are and what we're doing, and we wanted to know about you folks and sort of the work that you're doing. So during the registration, if you'll remember, we asked you to share a couple of the challenges that you might be facing, either with youth or with environmental ed classes or just in the field. And this is what we got. So as we can see, the two biggest challenges seem to be bringing that real world environmental science aspect into classrooms, because of course we can talk about it, but bringing in something that's super tangible and affecting students can be tough. We also had one about finding inclusive activities for all learners, which is another piece that can be really tough depending on the kind of learners that you're working with. The reason we wanted to see this is because we want to make sure that we're touching on this throughout our presentation so that you're feeling supported and heard with what we're delivering to you. One of the other interesting pieces that we heard was that having this hands-on lesson prepping and just hands-on material is a lot of effort. It can take so much time, and we totally understand that. So we wanted to make sure that, when addressing kind of our kits and what we're doing, you feel supported in that we have resources to help you and make the kind of guesswork of planning lessons a little bit easier.
Exactly. That brings us to the introduction of our kits, starting with Water Rangers. So Water Rangers has many tools, and our education kit is our largest kit and is specially curated for educators to take out their classrooms to get testing, as well as engage in community science. So our kits are hands-on. It's 3 sets of our most popular tools, and it tests for several parameters of water quality. So we test for air and water temperature, conductivity, pH, alkalinity, chlorine, and dissolved oxygen. And with that way, every student is going to get a chance to do some testing. Our kits are also really accessible and adaptable. So we have many different tools fit for all ages from 5 all the way to 75. Anyone can get testing. Our tiny kits are our simplest kits, and they've been used by young learners to test the pH of like puddles or household items or small ponds. And our kits also incorporate a lot of different learning styles. So there's like visual and hands-on components. Kids are also note-taking and writing, and you're also going to have a discussion as well. So it's a very immersive experience. With the hands-on outdoor activities, that means that nature gets to be the classroom, and it's a really great space to support the application of knowledge and a really powerful learning strategy. It's activities that's directly connected to life, so there's endless of possibilities and directions to engage in research if they want to go further. The students also get to be community scientists, so they can choose, you can choose actually as the educator, if you want to share your data onto our database and contribute to the data that is being used and monitored and seen by everyone, and that connects them globally to some really amazing work. I have a teacher in the interior who did a research fellowship in Antarctica, and she collected the data there, and like they used the platform. So it's really cool for the classroom to see that, wow, we collected samples like right here in the interior, and then like also our monitoring group is in Antarctica. So it's just really awesome to be able to engage your classroom. And it's an evergreen learning experience where they are collecting that authentic data that's going to stay there forever. And it's not necessary to use our platform, but regardless, like our kids just can spark action, encourage learners to do one thing, whether it's conserve water or use less toxic cleaning products or pick up litter. So what's in the kit? This is the kit, quite heavy, but I'll have it here for you. So imagine you bring this backpack to your classroom. You might lay it out in the beginning of the day. Maybe all the tools are spread out like that in the picture. And your students come in and they're thinking like, what is this? You know, they might pick it up. They might press the buttons on the connectivity meter. Maybe they're familiar with the test strips from their aquarium in their home. And you can already see how our kits can really provoke thoughts, wonder, and have that inquiry-based learning within your classroom and that mindset within your classroom. Depending on the degree of agency that you want to prepare your students for, you can use the kits for a more structured inquiry where you have a really comprehensive educator guide that supports you in exploring any kind of essential question that you want to pose, whether it's, you know, how do humans impact our ecosystems, or why is water important for living things? And with the 3 sets, you can already put your students into group. And then the educator's guide also has guiding questions to cultivate curiosity, and you can do the water quality testing together. If your students have more agency, you can allow for a more free inquiry, and they can use the kits themselves and test water quality monthly. If they want to do long-term products, they can do that based on their interest. And I have a teacher in East Van who does exactly that. And she takes her grade 11 science, like earth science students, to test monthly, and they test like different parts of the water body. And then they can see those trends change over time. And if you also have an environmental club, like that's really a great way to do as well. And overall, like our tools allow for that tangible exploration, that questioning, predicting, and directly answering those simple questions that lead to more deeper questions or reflections. And you have the flexibility to use your kids however you want, depending on your needs and capacity, whether it's a 45-minute lesson, whether it's a full day outdoors, or remote testing.
I have one of those kits at my house, and I've tested my tap water with it, and I think it is very fun. So in terms of the microplastics educational toolkit, what is it? Basically, it is everything that you would need to teach students and learners about microplastics and global water health. So it includes kind of the biggest piece, which is Saturna, and that's the Saturna imaging system. So for those of you who are familiar with the Gulf Islands off of Vancouver Island, you'll know that Saturna is one of our, I think, 4 Southern Gulf Islands. And for those of you who aren't, it's a little teeny sleepy island located real close to here. So let me just grab my Saturna because I want to show you kind of how small it really is. So here it is right here. And I like to say that it is smarter than a microscope and easier than an iPad. So you hook it up to your PC and it basically tells you everything you need to know about microplastics. What it does is similar to kind of conducting a forensic investigation with fingerprints. So, you know, you're dusting for fingerprints. You're trying to see, where did these come from? Who are they from? How long have they been here? That's kind of what Saturna does. So it gives you all of those clues and details about microplastics. So that's this piece. The other piece of our kit is that it's really flexible because it's a STEM tool. So for those of you who aren't as familiar with the term STEM, it means science, technology, engineering, and math. So that's a lot of things going on in kind of one acronym. So that means it works across curriculum, classes, different age groups, and it's really great because you can focus on maybe one subject like environment and sustainability classes, or you can focus on a ton of different ones depending on kind of how your resources and your learners learn best. So that includes like, having a math project and an art project and a sciences project all together in one kind of easy to use kit. Another piece that is one of my favorites is the fact that it's really community centric and really community focused. As Praise mentioned, the Water Rangers kit have that community science aspect, and so do ours. So, even though there's pre-made lessons, it encourages students to go out and take what they learn about their local beaches or just water health in general, if they're not close to beaches, and raise awareness among their peers and their community members. We had an example up in Prince Rupert. A bunch of community scientists were noticing lots more pollution on their beaches. So they went out for a few months and did consistent sampling to find out, where's all of this pollution coming from? Where are all these microplastics coming from? And they found that it was tied to industry and the fishing seasons. So as the seasons changed, you had more polystyrene or less, or whatever. So what they did is they took that and they're going to local decision makers to say, hey, this is a problem for the health of our beaches and, for the ecosystems and animals that are here. So that's kind of one example of how it ties into community. And our last piece is experience and experiential learning. So basically, when we were creating this, we wanted it to be inspired by those 21st century learning competencies. And yeah, again, for those of you who aren't as familiar, that kind of ties in the cognitive and non-cognitive skills. So taking in being literacy, reading and writing, all of that jazz, with also things like critical thinking and teamwork and problem solving. So we wanted to make sure that there was the ability for students to do big kind of connections across what they find and what's going on globally. So there's a big aspect of that. Right now, the kit is being used for grades 8 and above. So grade 8 to about first year university, we have some profs using it. But we're working on making it available for younger students as well and middle schoolers. And it can be done in little tiny groups or in full classes of students. So it's super flexible in numbers.
Awesome. So both of the kits have really great data components, and they teach they teach students the value of technology with collecting and analyzing data. And your students can also collect the data and extract it for even what Kat and I like to call more data fun. So our data platform for Water Rangers is free to use, although it's not required by the kit, like I mentioned, and it gives you access directly on the web. Each school can create a monitoring group and you can record your observations. You can map it out through our interactive map where they can see what thousands of other monitoring groups are doing as well. And you can also even map out the qualitative observation. So maybe the wildlife that you see, if you want to put some warnings for ice, if you're testing out in the winter, even identifying invasive. You can track that and also the day that it was seen. There's also quantitative observations that you can record, of course, all the parameters that we measure with the Water Rangers tools. And we, as an organization, we encourage folks to test regularly, which is monthly, so that you can establish baselines. And the platform can automatically generate trends over time when you do that. But it's not necessary to do regular testing as a teacher. I totally understand with your capacity. And also you have the option to share the data onto DataStream, which is Canada's open access data platform for water monitoring. It's very scientifically robust, and it's used by high-level decision makers as well as scientists and researchers. And you can directly share what you upload and just check a little button on our platform to directly upload it. And we do the quality assurance internally. And we also have an iOS field app that you can download if you're in the field, so you can directly upload data. So that's our data platform.
So the Ocean Diagnostics data platform, technically we have two, but we'll just be talking about the Saturna analysis tool today. So this kind of automatically connects with Saturna. And as you can see here on the screen, we have this little pad and a QR code. And I'll show you what that looks like. So it looks kind of like a mouse pad right here with the light side and the dark side. And what this does is it, like I mentioned with those forensic kind of fingerprint vibes, it quantifies and categorizes each little piece of microplastic that you might find on your beach or that we give to you. And the reason why this is important is because it's taking all the data that a pair of calipers could not take. So it does color, circularity, with all those dimensions, that great stuff, so that students can, take the data evaluation guide and look at the microplastics and go, we have a lot of polystyrene, or we have a lot of fishing line, something like that. As Praise mentioned, for the more data fun piece, it can be extracted to bring in those math competencies, which I think is super important. As a student who grew up hating math, I love that there's a way to kind of make it tangible for learners and connect math competencies, graph-based statistics into something that's really tangible and real. And finally, why is it so important to have students, using data and being familiar with it? We want to do that because this data is used to inform community and decision makers. So it shows them the importance of a real world kind of inquiry-based analysis, so that them as students can draw bigger connections from this data, as well as kind of provide this data to others to say, hey, these are issues we're experiencing in our community or that are happening globally. What are we going to do about it? So now that we have talked at you for a little while here and we need to take a deep breath, we have a poll question for you. So what we're going to do is pull up the Zoom whiteboard. For those of you who are familiar with Zoom whiteboard, that's lovely. You can see that there is going to be a piece on the left side of your screen to add a sticky note. And for those of you who aren't, you're welcome to just click the shape button, or if you're feeling really confident, you can also write with using your mouse, but I don't use that option. And the question that we are asking you is, what positive impacts of outdoor learning have you observed on your students? So yeah, please feel free to share. And what we're going to do is we'll save this as a PDF and we'll share it with you folks when the workshop is finished. So feel free to do that. If you can't figure out how to use it, not a problem. Please feel free to put it in the chat and we will put it up there for you. Oh, encouraging other outdoor activities. Totally. Love that.
Yeah.
Oh, and you can change the color, which is like a personal favorite of mine. It's not important, but I really like it. And yeah, you can also zoom out if you want to see what everyone else is putting in. So, oh no, now I'm going to zoom back in. Pollinator gardens. Okay, love that. I have also built native plant pollinator gardens and they are so much fun. Yeah, connections to land, that's super important as well. And we've had lots of educators, especially from BC, kind of chatting with us about the First Peoples Principles of Learning and tying in, land-based work and human impact into First Principles of Learning and kind of the Indigenous ways of knowing. So that's kind of another piece that, as an educator, if you're confident in that and comfortable with that, you can totally tie that in as well.
Yeah, students are so much more engaged outdoors and being able to connect in that way. And especially there's just more opportunities than just sitting at a desk for different types of learners. So you just see much more engagement, of course. Yeah, excited to learn for sure, for sure.
So we'll give everybody a few more seconds here to finish up because these ideas are awesome. And I feel like we could all sit here and kind of brainstorm all day about why outdoor learning is so cool and fun. But because, we understand that everyone has things to do and lives to get back to, we'll make sure that it's short.
Local interest is really great though, because, growing up, you go to school, you come home, maybe you walk to school, maybe you drive. And especially, I'm in British Columbia, and there's just so many beautiful bodies of water and land, and just knowing like where the mountains are, even like kind of the proximity of the Fraser River towards me. Once they start learning about just even a local body of water, then they might start thinking, okay, like I know this body of water. How does that end up being in the rivers? How does that end up going to the ocean? Okay, we have the Pacific Ocean by us, and having a chance to kind of orient themselves in that way is really great. Awesome. These are so great. Thank you guys so much for being so engaging. Talk about engaging students. You guys are very engaged as well. I love that.
Totally.
And we'll definitely share this whiteboard with you after if you see any kind of ideas or yeah, reflections for sure.
All right. Well, everyone just finish up and then we will get back to the presentation.
And we'll wrap it up at 2. Actually, everyone has different times, but it's 1:59 right now.
For us, it's 2 p.m. For, you know, folks down in South Carolina, it's
Something else.
5, I think. I can never remember.
Yeah, I'm terrible with time differences. Okay, looks like everyone's put out what they need to put out. Okay.
Boogie.
Let me close that whiteboard and share back the other screen, and we can continue on with talking about some of our experiences and some case studies. So yeah, like really great. Thank you so much for your engagement. And our kits really emphasize that outdoor experiential learning. We've had great feedback from educators and students that have used them so far. One notable example is 2 6th grade class workshops that I ran back in September at Norquay Elementary, which is in East Vancouver. And it was a great opportunity for the water quality and the microplastics kits to come together in action. So we started the day telling them a little bit about microplastics and the importance of community science. And then we walked to Trout Lake where they picked up garbage along the way and they had all their tongs. And on the way, actually, we came across a polystyrene spill, which it was really unfortunate to see that out in nature, but it was a really great learning opportunity to show how what we were speaking directly in the classroom, now you see it in your communities on your way to go test water. And it really got them thinking. And we talked about how eventually end up in our oceans or other bodies of water, because especially since it was near a sewage grate. So they were really directly able to see that. And once we got to Trout Lake, we split the class up into 2 groups, and half of them did water testing, the other half did microplastic sampling on the beach. And then halfway through, they switched, so everyone got a chance to use the tools. And then we went back to the classroom and we did some really fun data activities. We got to use the Water Rangers platform where I shared the screen and we had a classroom discussion and recorded all the things that we saw. One day we saw a heron, another day a student noticed a cucumber in the bottom of the water. And you know, we also noticed, like with the sewage drain pipe, there was a faint line where the water line usually is, and the students were able to deduce that there was a period of drought where the water levels are much lower than normally, and it was a really hot day too, so they were able to really see how that impacts, because it was even like mid-late September at that point. And then they got to use the Saturna tool where they got to analyze microplastics that they found on the beach and talk more about it. They found some really interesting pieces like food wrapper particles, fishnet line, more polystyrene. And we got to talk about maybe how it gotten there. They were able to use the microplastics categorization to understand the different sources of each microplastics. And overall, it was an awesome day. Like the kids loved it. We asked them to write a highlight of their day, and you could see some of the things that they wrote out that stood out. And although it was a little bit of a younger audience for Saturna, they got a lot out of it. And even the teacher, she really enjoyed how hands-on it was and how engaged students who usually weren't so engaged were in doing these activities. So yeah, it was a great day.
I'm always sad that I missed that day, but always so impressed at how students are like so excited to be outside and learning new things. We want to give you a quick example of how Saturna and how our kits have been used locally. So we had a youth ambassador who's Liam, he's right here in the middle, and he was really excited about microplastics and he did some science fair projects on it and was just jazzed. So we invited him to be a youth ambassador and take his class out to a local beach, and that's Cadborough Bay, and do some sampling on their own to see what they could find. So what they found was 80% of the recovered microplastics were polystyrene, and that is a lot of polystyrene. For those of you kind of in BC and on the island, you might kind of notice the same thing. So they asked why so much of that. And what they found was that because on the island here, our docks and marinas are held up by polystyrene floats, which seems kind of crazy, seeing as they will shed and get onto beaches and be consumed by other animals. So they learned that, and then they went to their school administrators and, are kind of creating projects and ways to mitigate that for the future. So that was an incredibly cool experience. We were also recently featured in, for those of you who follow Canadian broadcasting, CBC has a documentary called The Nature of Things, and we were featured in that. So keep your eyes peeled in the springtime because we'll be on the television with Sarika. So that'll be great.
That's so exciting. And I always say never underestimate the ability of students to discover new things. Yeah, that's a great example. And lastly, the image on the right is from an EnviroWild camp that is run by the Department of Environment in Yukon. And these particular photos were from a week that the youth spent at Snafu Lake, and they used our freshwater kits. And these are summer students, and it was this huge hit. They would go out on canoe trips, and it's just a great example that, our kids are so flexible. It's not just in specific formal educational instances that it's used. It's in many types, community science, camps, programs, etc. It's just a really great way to engage youth in doing some environmental work.
Now we'll get into the kind of nittier grittier pieces of it. So in terms of pricing and details, we wanted to thank you so much for taking the time to learn more about us and register and then attend. And we want to make sure that if you are interested, you feel able to take the kits home with you or have them sent to you, depending on where you're located. So we have a 15% discount for both of the kits. But if you would like just one or just the other, don't worry, we won't be offended. We have a 10% discount on either of them. And the reason that we want to do this is because, like we've kind of said before, the kits can be used over an entire semester, and it really takes a lot of that guesswork out of, oh my gosh, what are we going to do this semester for lesson plans? So we wanted to offer that to you. The discount codes will be available on the end of the slides, and they will be sent to you.
Awesome. And so we're not just asking you to buy these products and leave and go forth unless, you're super keen and you want to immediately get tested in microplastic sampling, and we say, be our guest. Please take it out to your students. But we really want you to feel supported. We want you to feel empowered. And you can always put the questions down in the chat, and we'll always answer, and we'll have a little bit of time for questioning after, if that's okay. Or actually, Damien, if you're raising your hand now, you can totally just ask. But yeah.
Hi. Thank you for the information. I jumped in a bit late, but I have a meeting next week with one of your, I don't know if it's a colleague of yours. Her name is Ashley. I don't remember the last name.
Oh yeah, that's my boss.
Okay, that's your boss. Okay. So I work at Export Barbados in Barbados. We want to purchase your Ascension microprofiler, but we also have a Blue Economy educational program called Blue Tridents. And I want to purchase 2 of your kits. Now, I'm going to drop my email in the chat box right now. And sure. I would appreciate if you can send me a quotation or some information on a quotation, or maybe I can discuss this with Ashley next week, Tuesday at 2 when we meet.
Yeah, Ashley and I, we can talk about it and we can get back to you. Thanks.
But yeah, you can definitely drop your info. Thanks, Damien. Super cool. Barbados, wow. Worldwide. Ocean Diagnostics. That's awesome. But as I was saying, so we have various tools to help educators, especially to succeed, because we know just how much capacity that you're constantly just working over. And we want to make sure that you feel empowered and your students feel empowered as well. So we have some really great curriculum connections and learning standards in both of our respective websites. We go into detail about how our tools and topics connect with various curriculums, big ideas, learning standards. In Water Rangers, we have it for the provinces of British Columbia, Ontario, and Quebec, some curriculum expansions. And for Ocean Diagnostics, they have some really great expansions from British Columbia, Yukon, Washington, Oregon, and IB program standards. And like I said, you can find it in our respective websites. And Water Rangers also has bilingual resources, so you can have it in French and in English. Also, we both have really great comprehensive lesson plans and teaching resources. For Water Rangers, on our website, we have a bunch of mini lessons that teachers can use, and it can be adapted for younger and older audiences, and also has indoor and outdoor activities. So You can get water quality testing, like I said, anywhere you would like. And the educator's guide is all that you need for testing, but much more can be found online. And we also have a page for active grants if you need support for funding. And we will also be having, specifically for water rangers, a grant that will be coming out for Ocean Week Canada, for you to encourage your to do some classroom activities for Ocean Week, which is the first week of June. So if you follow us on social media, or if you reach out to me, I could definitely send you information for that. Ocean's Day is June 8th. Yeah. So then Ocean's Week is leading up until
The whole
8th,
week.
June 1st. So yeah, absolutely. And for Ocean Diagnostics, there are some really great lesson plans that are already included in your kit. There are 3 optional lesson plans, and it's flexible across an hour, the afternoon, or the semester. And you can also, it also ties into different disciplines for smaller schools, because our kits are so interdisciplinary already. And also includes background guides and educational sheets like word search, crosswords, and handful activities for your students as well. That's all microplastics themed. We also have really great step-by-step instructions, tech support, video guides. Support can, again, both be found on our respective websites, and we both have video walkthroughs and guides, on-call tech support, and we're always responding to emails for feedback. And Water Rangers, we have a live chat as well that you can enter in, but like I said, you can just shoot us an email and we'll get right back to you. And we always want to look for how we can improve the kits as well. And then lastly, for virtual training for Water Rangers, if you're purchasing a kit, you can add on, there's an option to add on virtual training for $80. And we can also do a virtual workshop with the students who will be using the kits. So it's great for environmental, if you're in like an environmental club and you know that you're going to have like students specifically to be using that. And also we have staff all over Canada. I'm based in Surrey, British Columbia, and then the majority of our staff is based in Ontario and Quebec. So if we're located near one of us, we can do an in-person workshop as well. And the price varies depending on how far away, but it starts at $150, and you can contact me for more details. And we like our resources, the training resources on our website are free, of course. And you can contact either Catherine and I for more details for our respective equipment and the kits.
So just before we close, we wanted to make sure everything comes full circle and do a bit of a brief overview in terms of what we're doing and what we're offering. So, why are we collaborating? Because our tools work super well together and they have that holistic learning experience about human impacts and really have data as a forefront. So they're interdisciplinary, meaning they integrate across tons of different disciplines, and they also bring in those 21st century learning skills, so critical thinking, leadership, all that great stuff. It's also, there's a kind of piece of flexibility to it to be used from one afternoon to an entire semester and create sort of legacy projects depending on what your classroom is into. It's data driven. So like we said, there's that really forefront of data and teaching students why is data important? How do we use it? And how does it influence, our bigger world? It ties into experiential, I always say experiential education and inquiry-based education. So giving students the tools to be curious about their world and sort of having a springboard in terms of what they want to learn and what we're teaching them. And finally, in terms of cost value, our kits, because they're flexibly implemented across disciplines and across time, they're great as a shared resource, even for like a district or a school or an organization. There's very few consumables in each of the kits because we wanted to make sure, we're not creating microplastics by trying to mitigate microplastics and, water pollution, vice versa. So very few consumables, and those that there are can be refilled super easily through Water Rangers. So that is us. Thank you so much for, coming with us on this journey and making it to the end. We so appreciate that. And, if you're interested in bringing the kits into your classroom or your organization, we would be happy to chat with you. We have our contact information here. So here's Praises and myself. We have our website down here, which is on the Water Rangers platform. That's where we have our little joint kind of piece. And then in terms of the codes, these are both of our codes. So these codes are valid until March 15th. But if you are interested, because, getting funding can be tough, we understand. If you're interested in having it for a little bit longer, just reach out to one of us and we can chat with you and find a solution. And again, this will be sent to you, so you'll have it. And so we're going to move on to questions if anyone has any.
Thank you so much, everyone, for listening and coming. And yeah, I'll go to the next slide just to If Catherine, you want to speak to that as well? Sorry.
Great. So questions, if anyone has questions, please feel free, put them in the chat, raise your hand, blurt them out, no worries. And I just wanted to draw your attention back to the graph that we had at the beginning, just to see, you know, making sure that we touched on these pieces and if you have further questions about it. And we also have a word cloud here that, you know, I wanted to make sure it really looks like a cloud that kind of touch on each of the pieces that we explored. So please feel free to ask any questions you might have, and absolutely no worries if you're like, I have other things, but we're just grateful that you were here today. So thank you. Thanks, everyone.
Yeah, if you don't have any questions, you can feel free to leave, and we'll definitely we'll be in touch and we'll let you know about the information. And just some additional, like the specific links to our websites, for instance, the discount codes, etc. If you need any specific information, you can jot it down below and we'll make sure to get that to you as well. Yeah, thank you so
Hi,
much, everyone.
will you guys be sharing the presentation? Like I said, I missed about 20 minutes of it, or maybe more than that.
Oh, yeah.
I would really like to see it from the start. Are you gonna email it to us?
Yeah, so I will be taking the recording of this presentation and emailing it to everybody tomorrow, I think, depending on how the
Okay.
rest of my day goes. So you'll get
Understood.
it, don't worry.
All right, appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks,
Welcome.
Fabian. Take care.
Barbados, that's super cool. Ugh, I want to go to
I
Trinity,
want to go to
man.
Barbados.
I know, man. Ugh.
I'm tired of the gray weather.
For real. Actually, it's been sunny though, which is kind of concerning because it's like early
Yeah, well, not as sunny
February.
as Barbados.
Yeah, true. Okay, thank you, everyone. I can stop sharing and we can see if anyone's here.